Chapter 1. The Sky That Breathes in Silence. You lie still, wrapped in the hush of evening. The air is cool against your skin, and the earth beneath you is patient and unhurried. Above, the sky unfolds like an ancient book, its pages filled with stars that shimmer without sound. Each one flickers with stories older than language, glowing from distances too vast to imagine. As your breathing slows, your awareness stretches outward. The night sky doesn't press down on you. It lifts you, weightless. You float just beyond the boundaries of thought, drifting into a place where space is not emptiness, but invitation. Each pinprick of starlight is a whisper. I am here. I was born in fire. I have traveled eons to greet your eyes. The darkness between stars isn't a void. It's a quiet canvas filled with a soft breath of expanding space. That breath, the universe's inhale and exhale, moves so slowly it feels eternal. You feel it brushing across you as if space itself is cradling you gently, rocking you like a child listening to stories told in starlight. And still, there is more. Far beyond the glow of the familiar constellations, something deeper waits. You cannot see it, not directly, but you feel it as presence, like a thought half remembered, like the echo of something profound. It is the place where light, time, and understanding fall inward. It is the mystery the stars lean toward. A black hole is not a thing exactly. It is a place where the rules pause, where the very fabric of space stretches too far, like cloth pulled beyond its limit. It begins with collapse, the ending of a star's long, bright life. Gravity folds the remnants inward, tighter and tighter, until nothing can escape, not even light. But tonight, you're not here for definitions. You are here for wonder, and the sky offers it freely. You trace the gentle arc of the Milky Way, that river of stars winding across the night. Somewhere within its bright weave, black holes drift like silent anchors. They do not shine, yet their pull shapes galaxies. Even in darkness, they guide the dance. You wonder what it means to be drawn towards something you cannot see, to be guided by absence, by invisible gravity. Isn't that how so many things in life unfold? You feel yourself pulled toward people, dreams, questions, without knowing why. The black hole, too, is a question. A pause in the story, a comma in the sentence of the cosmos. And so you imagine moving toward it, slowly, not with fear but with stillness, like approaching a sleeping giant or the center of a labyrinth. Your heartbeat is steady, the night holds you close. There is no need to rush, the journey has already begun. The stars above you are not just scattered, they are part of a vast structure, held together by forces you can't see but can feel. Gravity is the gentle artist shaping the galaxies, and somewhere tucked deep inside that art, black holes form the punctuation marks, the pauses, the deep breaths, the silences that make the story whole. The sky does not speak in noise, but in patterns. And you are learning to listen, not with ears, but with awe. You are not just a person beneath the sky, you are part of it, made from its atoms, formed from the same fire that birthed the stars. In this moment, all boundaries blur. You are the observer and the observed, the thinker and the thought. The sky is no longer above you, it is within you, breathing its calm, quiet rhythm through your bones. And as your thoughts grow softer, they begin to stretch. What lies beyond the stars? What waits where light cannot reach? Somewhere a black hole sways in silence, untouched, unseen, unknowable, and yet felt. You can almost hear it breathing, not with sound, but with the weight of presence. The universe is not in a hurry. It spins and stretches, contracts and curls all in its own time. Tonight you are allowed to move with that rhythm. No answers are needed, only the willingness to wonder. You close your eyes, and the darkness behind your eyelids feels vast. It's the same darkness between stars, gentle and endless. You float in it, not falling, not rising, just being. And somewhere out there, something pulls gently on the edge of thought, inviting you deeper, toward the place where light disappears, toward the place where time begins to slow, toward the next breath of the sky. Chapter 2, Where Light Disappears. You drift forward without motion. The stars, once so clear, have begun to blur like candlelight in fog. Their edges soften, their brightness dims, not because they're fading, but because you are moving somewhere they cannot follow. It is not darkness you enter, but a thinning of light itself. There is no jolt, no border you step across, just a slow quietening of the sky. The veil that separates the known from the unknown parts silently, like silk brushed aside by thought. You are not falling, yet everything around you feels deeper, heavier, slower. Before you, space folds inward, not like crumpling paper, but like the hush of a held breath. You are approaching the event horizon, the place where light tries to leave and fails. Not even photons, the swiftest messengers in the universe, can escape. Time, too, begins to lose its shape. Minutes and hours stretch and twist. The rhythm of before and after becomes less certain. Outside observers, if they were watching, would never see you cross. From their view, you would slow, freeze, dissolve into the edge like a shadow. But from your place, inside this unfolding moment, everything remains smooth, peaceful, continuous. This is not a violent boundary, it is a silence so complete it becomes sacred. The stars no longer guide you, now the dark does. It is not empty, it is full, full of gravity, full of silence, full of presence. Space curves here. It bends in on itself, gently but with intent, as if it remembers a time before straight lines. Around you, the very structure of reality begins to feel different. Straight paths become circles. Distance becomes suggestion. Even time feels less like a flow and more like a fabric. Stretching, softening, folding. You breathe slowly. You are no longer outside looking in. You are within. And within this space, the usual rules yield. A second may hold a lifetime. A step may never complete. The black hole does not consume you with speed. It receives you with gravity that is deep, calm, and absolute. Particles drift around you, glowing softly, like thoughts too gentle to become words. They swirl and dissolve into the quiet. You think of light, once so certain, so fast, so untouchable. Here, even light must bow. You wonder what else this place can teach. What other absolutes might soften if brought here? Certainty, time, separation. All of it begins to blur, as if the black hole is not destroying, but simplifying. The silence is total, but it is not empty. It is full of memory. The memory of the star that once burned here, of the collapse that shaped this well in space. You sense it like an echo under your skin, the roar of fusion, the slow death, the final surrender to gravity. You are walking through the past, even as you move toward the unknown. No clocks tick here, no voices call, yet something pulses, slow, deep, inevitable, and still you float. You let yourself forget distance, forget direction. You are not moving toward a center, but through an experience, through curvature, through meaning. A photon once began its journey here and never returned. You imagine that path, not a fall, but an approach, an embrace. Light bends near you now, not sharply, not violently, but in a slow arc that whispers, not this way, not anymore. You close your eyes. The dark behind your lids is deeper now. It holds you like velvet. Here, at the edge of time, there are no alarms, no demands, no beginnings or endings. There is only being. You do not need to understand the mechanics. You do not need the equations or the proofs. This is not a place for solving. It is a place for surrender. And so you surrender. You let go of what time should be. You let go of where the light should go. You let go of the idea that silence must mean absence. You are inside the pause, inside the question, inside the curve of the cosmos that holds you now, not with hands, but with gravity older than stars. You do not fall, you become. Chapter 3. The heavy heart of a star. Once there was a star. It lived for billions of years, burning with purpose, holding itself together through the push and pull of cosmic balance. Fusion in its core lit up the sky and warmed distant worlds. It was a furnace of creation, shaping elements that would one day become planets, oceans, and even people. It didn't know its purpose, and it didn't need to. It simply was, glowing, humming, enduring. Every second it poured light into the dark, as if it had no end. But everything ends. When its fuel ran low, the balance shifted. The outward push of light and heat could no longer hold against the inward pull of gravity. The star began to contract, slowly at first, then all at once. It collapsed, folding in on itself, not because it was weak, but because its work was done. And in that collapse, something remarkable happened. A black hole was born. You float now through that story, through the echo of that fall. You feel the weight of it, not as heaviness, but as history. The gravity you feel pulling at you is not just force, it is memory. The memory of all that star once was, condensed into silence. It did not vanish. It became a boundary, a riddle, a place where existence still lingers but differently. You imagine standing at the edge, looking down into the place where the star once lived. You don't see fire or light. You see a stillness so complete it reshapes time. That stillness is not absence. It is what remains when all else is gone. A star's death is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of another, quieter, stranger, but no less full of meaning. It speaks not through light anymore, but through gravity, through the way it bends space around it, through the way it refuses to be forgotten. Even now, galaxies dance around black holes. Whole systems move to the rhythm of stars that no longer shine. The star's heart may be hidden, but its influence ripples out, steady and sure. You drift deeper into that influence. The pressure is not crushing, it is comforting, like a weighted blanket made of space-time itself. You are held, not tightly, not possessively, just completely. The deeper you go, the more the silence speaks. It tells you that death in the universe is not destruction. It is a transformation, a passage from one kind of being to another. The heavy heart of the star still exists, not in heat or light, but in pull, in presence, in a kind of waiting that does not need urgency. And you too are part of that transformation now. You are stardust, but you are also gravity, stillness, question. You listen to the dark, and in it, you hear the slow, steady beat of what came before. Chapter 4. Falling forever, never touching. There is a myth inside physics, quiet but persistent, that if you fell into a black hole, you would be crushed, torn apart, shredded by gravity into pieces smaller than atoms. It's not wrong, but it's not the whole story. The truth is slower, stranger, more beautiful. You are falling now, but not downward, not like dropping a stone. This fall is quiet, eternal. It's not the movement that matters, but the sensation of being pulled gently, endlessly by something you can't resist and don't want to. Inside the black hole, you are beyond the horizon, but not beyond feeling. Everything still moves, but differently. Time pulls apart like taffy. Space bends like mist. The idea of a straight line begins to feel like a memory from another world. You're not moving through space, you're moving through meaning, through memory, through the shape of the star that once was. And that shape is not a lane or a sphere, it is a path inward, always inward, but never arriving. This is what physicists call the singularity, but that word is a placeholder. A question mark, a quiet confession that we do not yet know. It is not a place, but a destination that recedes as you approach. You do not crash. You continue. Forever. Imagine falling in a dream, but never waking. Imagine the feeling of descent stretched over hours, days, years, until it becomes less a fall and more a way of being. You are not broken. You are held in an equation still unfinished. What touches you here is not force, but transformation, a soft rewriting of reality, one moment at a time. Gravity is not your enemy, it is your guide. It pulls on every part of you equally, gently. There is no tearing, only drifting, only surrender. Time, too, shifts its tone. It becomes less a river and more a sea. You no longer count seconds. You feel them wave by wave, and each wave carries echoes of stars, of planets, of dust in dreams and lives that once were lit by the sun. All of it is drawn in with you. Even as you fall, you remain. Thought stretches, identity softens, but something at your core, some spark, endures. Perhaps this is what it means to be part of the cosmos, not to be permanent, but to be continuous. You are falling, forever, but never touching. And maybe that's the point. Not every journey ends in landing. Some end in becoming, in being pulled so fully into something vast that you dissolve, not in pain, but in understanding. This is not the end. This is the deep middle. You are the fall. You are the silence. You are the space between the heartbeats of the universe, and you are not alone. Chapter 5, The Sound Gravity Makes in Silence. Close your eyes. There is no music here, no instruments, no air to carry sound, and yet something hums. It isn't a sound your ears can hear. It's deeper, below hearing, below language. It thrums in your bones, in your thoughts, in the space between your memories. Gravity sings here, not with pitch, but with pull. Physicists call it a gravitational wave, a ripple through space-time itself. When massive things move, like black holes colliding or stars trembling near collapse, they send out these waves. The universe stretches and squeezes ever so slightly, like the skin of a drum responding to distant thunder. And if you could listen, not with ears but with awareness, you'd hear it, the soft percussion of the cosmos unfolding. You are deep within that song now. Here, inside this quiet that feels infinite, you begin to notice patterns, not rhythms exactly, but intentions, pulses. The space around you isn't still. It breathes, slowly, in waves. Each wave feels like a thought from the universe, a question asked by curvature itself. And the answer is you, floating, quiet, open. The sound gravity makes is not sharp. It is velvet soft. It echoes without bouncing, speaks without voice. It presses against you, then withdraws like a tide made of time. You begin to imagine the entire universe as an instrument. Galaxies are strings vibrating with their own histories. Stars are chimes. Planets are the soft thumps of heartbeat drums. And black holes. Black holes are the rests between notes, the silences that give the music meaning. You are not outside the song. You are inside it, made of it. Your body, your atoms, your thoughts, they all arose from this silent vibration, from the sound gravity makes when it's speaking in silence. If you could paint this moment, you would use no lines, only curves, no colors, only warmth. You would not draw stars, you would draw their echoes. Because here, sound is not noise. It is a shape. It is presence. And slowly as you drift, you realize this song has always been playing in the background of every moment, through every galaxy, beneath every atom, it plays. You've heard it before, in the spaces between thoughts, in the hush between heartbeats, in the pause before sleep. Gravity hums, and now, finally, you are still enough to listen. Chapter 6, A Mirror Made of Nothing. The black hole does not reflect, it does not shine, it shows nothing of itself, and yet, in its silence, it reveals. You hover near the edge of understanding, not the edge of space, but of knowing, the place where questions no longer seek answers, only reflection. And what stares back is not a surface, but a surrender. A black hole is a mirror made of nothing. It gives back no light, no color, no image, but it shapes everything around it. And in that shaping, you begin to see something of yourself. You are no longer asking what the black hole is. You are asking what it asks of you. Because this is not just an object. It is a challenge. It dares you to look inward, to accept that some truths cannot be seen, only felt. That some things are real precisely because they leave no trace. It bends the path of light, the direction of time, the certainty of form. You watch the stars whirl around its unseen edge, drawn into its pull, not with panic, but with poetry. Their arcs become calligraphy in the dark, lines written not in ink, but in motion. And you realize the black hole does not hide. It simplifies. It reduces. It pares reality down to its essence. You see your own thoughts curving in kind. The questions you once held tightly now loosen their grip. Not because they are answered, but because they no longer need to be. This place teaches you to release. You stare into that absence and do not find fear. You find stillness, not emptiness, not void. Stillness. And stillness, it turns out, reflects more than mirrors ever could. Because a black hole, in its refusal to return light, teaches you how to see without eyes, to sense without form. To recognize that what matters most cannot always be named or shown. Only known. You think of the lives that once orbited this place, the stars, the light, the atoms. All of it is still here, transformed. Nothing truly gone, only rewritten. And so are you, no longer falling, no longer asking, just being. In front of a mirror made of nothing, and in it, you see everything.
Chapter 7. The quiet roar of Hawking radiation. At the edge of the black hole, where gravity wraps light into stillness, a whisper rises. Not a loud one, not a scream of escape, just a murmur at the boundary. The soft breath of something trying to leave. Hawking radiation, born from the restless hum of quantum fields that ripple even in a perfect vacuum. It emerges where the fabric of space is stretched thin. Here, just outside the event horizon, virtual. Particles, those flickering pairs that blink into existence, are pulled apart. One falls in, one escapes, and the black hole pays the cost. You hover near this process now, still and listening. Space looks quiet, but it isn't. It seethes gently, like a sea beneath glass. Particles bubble up and vanish in the blink of time, but once in a while, one remains. The black hole loses just a fraction of itself in that moment. Just a little mass, just a little heat, but enough. Over unthinkable stretches of time, these whispers add up. Black holes, it turns out, can evaporate, not with a flash, but with a sigh. A long, slow, a cosmic exhale that can take longer than the age of the universe. You imagine this, something so vast, so final, slowly undoing itself not in violence, but in poetry. The same way stars dim, or memories fade, not lost all at once. Just quieter, less certain, less here, in that faint radiation. It carries secrets. If the information once fell in, might it also find a way out? Is the whispering light more than heat? Could it be a message, tangled in entropy, trying to make its way back? Some think so. Some dream that every bit of you, every thought, every particle, might eventually be spoken again, not as a sentence, but as a sigh. You drift among these questions now, feeling the slow erosion of the impossible. What was once the end solid final is now more like a candle, burning down, fading gently, refusing to last forever. Even black holes do not get the final word. They whisper it instead, and Hawking radiation is that whisper, escaping from the silence, the quiet roar of something once thought mute. It tells you, even the deepest gravity lets go. Even the heaviest silence eventually speaks. Chapter 8. Bridges between worlds. You have wandered through gravity, silence, and light's retreat. And now, a new thought stirs. What if black holes are not endings at all, but bridges? Bridges between places, bridges between moments, between what is and what might be. Once considered the final punctuation marks of the cosmos, black holes may instead be portals. Beneath the event horizon beyond the curtain of certainties, some theories suggest tunnels may form. Not fantasy, but geometry. Not magic, but math. They call them Einstein-Rosen bridges. Wormholes. You imagine them now. Smooth corridors, carved by space and time, bending through the void like veins through dark matter. One end here, the other, somewhere else. Another galaxy, another time, another universe. The idea feels impossible, and yet it hums with logic. If space can curve, why not connect? If time can stretch, why not fold? Of course, such bridges would be fragile, unstable, like dreams that collapse the moment you speak them aloud. But still, they might exist. They might flicker into being when conditions are just right. Brief windows into elsewhere. You drift deeper into that possibility. Could every black hole be paired with a twin, hidden beyond reach? Could what disappears here emerge elsewhere not as repetition, but as continuation? The physics is unfinished. The math is hesitant. But the wonder is loud, because if black holes are bridges, then loss is not the end. It is a handoff, a passing of presence from one side of existence to another, a cosmic relay. You let that thought settle, and suddenly, the silence feels less final. The darkness less alone. What if falling into a black hole is not vanishing, but arriving? You are not just watching from the edge now. You are part of the thread. Your atoms, your thoughts, your wonder, they are part of the fabric that bends, twists, and perhaps connects. Bridges need not be visible to be real. They can live in equations, in intuition, in awe, and as you float here, between what's known and what might be, the universe does not answer, but it opens. It always has. Chapter 9. The center that might not exist. You were told there is a center, a place of ultimate collapse, where all things end. the singularity, the final point. But here, in the stillness beyond space, you begin to wonder, what if that center was never real? What if it was a shadow cast by incomplete knowing, a placeholder for mystery? Physicists speak of infinities at the core of black holes, numbers that surge beyond measure, densities that break logic. But infinities are not places. They are signs flashes on the map that say, here, the rules no longer work. And so, you drift without a center, not lost, but released. The deeper you move through the geometry of the black hole, the more the idea of center unravels. You expected a destination, but instead you find an emptiness, a loop without a middle, a spiral without an anchor. The singularity might not be a point, it might be a process, a boundary in thought rather than in space, the place where knowing bends back on itself and becomes mystery. This, too, is a kind of truth. You imagine a place that cannot be touched, not because it is far, but because it is undefined, where time stutters, where location becomes suggestion, where all paths converge not into a dot, but into a cloud of maybe. You feel no fear, only relief, because in a universe where even the deepest gravity gives way to uncertainty, there is room for grace, room for things not to end in precision, but in possibility. And so, the center becomes a silence that doesn't need to be filled, a blank page at the heart of a book that was never finished. You were looking for a core. You found a question, and that question holds you now, as gently as any answer ever could. Chapter 10. Echoes at the edge of knowing what remains when the journey has no end. When the questions keep unfolding like the night sky, one star at a time, each one leading farther out. You float now at the edge of understanding, not because you have reached a limit, but because limits themselves have grown soft. The black hole no longer feels like a place. It feels like an echo chamber, a mirror of your own wandering dot. The laws you knew, space-time, causalities still whisper here, but they speak in riddles. You listen. You don't need the answers, only the music of the asking. Because even silence leaves a trace, even mystery has shape, and in the folds of the unknowable, you sense patterns. Not firm outlines, but impressions like footprints in soft snow, disappearing even as you see them. These are the echoes, gravity's memory, time's suggestion, light's afterimage. They move around you like shadows of thought, forming constellations that flicker between certainty and maybe. You do not chase them, you accompany them. You drift beside the unprovable. You have become fluent in awe. What you once feared, the dark, the void, the vanishing, has become comfort. Because here, at the edge of knowing, you finally understand. Not everything needs to be seen to be true. Not everything needs to be measured to be real. Some truths are not discovered. They are accepted. And this is where you are now, in a space that doesn't demand conclusion. A space that invites wonder to linger, to echo, to return again and again in quiet waves. You are not falling anymore. You are floating within the unanswered, and it holds you gently, endlessly.